Hello. So we are starting the recording of our Blake Family Orientation webinar. And as a reminder for those that don't know, I'm Nat Vaughn and I'm the principal here at Blake Middle School. Kelly, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Kelly Campbell. I'm the assistant principal at Blake.
And we are very excited about this school year. It was great to have students from both cohorts A and B in the building on both Friday and on Monday. And Kelly and I have put together a slide deck presentation, and we are recording this call, and we will be sending it out to you. You will have received it when you get this, and also we'll be sending out the copy of the slide deck as well. So what I will be doing is sharing my screen right now and pulling up the presentation. And I will put it in present mode. And the goal of the presentation is to walk things through. So Kelly, can you see the screen on your end?
I can.
Perfect. So welcome. So our goal is for this bit of time to talk you through what our school is going to look like, share some images, and explain some of the procedures and logistics as well. So our goal always, so the intentions for this is ground our work. Our safe learning environment has always been the most important piece for us at Blake, and sharing the parameters and expectations, how it ties into our mission, sharing structures, parameters, logistics, and provide an outline of what the year is planned to look like as we move forward. So before I begin, I'd be remiss not thanking just some people to help make this school year a reality. First of all, our custodial crew at Blake is fantastic. Matt Fraser is our head custodian. Our full crew just worked tirelessly throughout the summer to get the building ready, and they continue to do so. Sharon Scarry, admin assistant in the main office, is the rock of our school and has just been amazing helping out. And Tanya Manuel, to name as well, working in our technology department, just working constantly to help make sure the classrooms are ready, that the Chromebooks are ready, iPads are ready, and that we're good to go. And our entire staff has just been phenomenal throughout the summer, working throughout. So, and I would be remiss not thanking Kelly for just a wonderful partnership in the main office. So we are excited. We want to make sure we start the year with that. So this is something I've shared before, and I think it's going to be very important for all of our students and families, and including myself. So this comes out of Mark Brackett's work. It's a feelings indicator, and we do this a lot with our staff. We'll be doing with students, knowing that everything this year touches on our emotions, and we need to make sure we're aware of our feelings. So I just want to make sure we name that at any given point, we could be anywhere along this high energy, low happiness spectrum, or wherever you may be. So I want to make sure we recognize that, because this is an angst-inducing time on many, many levels, both personally and professionally, for students and staff. Always want to just ground our work in our mission, and the line has become very true for not just at Blake, but I think across the district, that our goal is to embrace a willingness to adapt. We want to make sure that that has been true more than ever this year for all of us. And just Justin Reich's work about the importance of coherence, and that's a real goal that we're trying to put systems in place for coherence, that we want to provide a coherent education across the board and consistent and equitable education, and that we are all pulling our oars together towards the same goals. So that's just important, that we ground our work no matter what we're doing in these beliefs. So as we start the school year, these are some of our guiding lights. First, safety, health, and shared responsibility is a guiding principle. And so we're asking you to endeavor in that with us. Listing priorities for the year that we'll be covering. These are all in the slide deck, so I don't feel the need to read all of them, but I just want to touch on them. I do want to say that care, flexibility, and grace is critical for all of us, our students, our staff, families, and we'll be exercising that throughout. Looking out for one's well-being, making time for yourself and your family, and relationships are at the heart of everything. The relationships are at the heart of the work that we're doing with our students, no matter what the cohort, no matter what the format of learning will be. And our guiding premises that we talked a lot in the spring was, no matter what we would do, and we talked about this in May and in June, when we return this fall, this is what our hope is to do, is that we will meet students where they are at, we'll meet one another where we are at, and we will all learn and move forward together. So this summer, as you know, the reopening committees, these are all the staff members on our team at Blake. We had a good problem of a lot of staff that volunteered, and we had 3 students that were on our reopening committee as well. Emma Catalano, Jack Comain, and Athena Polokronos. They were phenomenal helping us out throughout the summer planning. So a big thank you to our whole reopening committee that helped make what we're living right now a reality. So I'm going to show a clip from the movie Argo. And if you are not familiar with this movie, I recommend it. It's excellent. And this is a scene in the movie where Ben Affleck, who is a CIA operative, is proposing an idea to the CIA director for how they were going to address the situation. And it talks about bad ideas and good bad ideas. So I'm going to share it with all of you. I shared this with all our staff as well.
Aliens and robots?
Yes, sir.
You're telling me that there is a movie company in Hollywood right now that is funded by the CIA?
Yes, sir.
What's wrong with the bikes again?
We tried to get the message upstairs.
You think this is more plausible than teachers?
Yes, we do. One, there are no more foreign teachers in Iran.
And we think everybody knows Hollywood people. And everybody knows they'd shoot in Stalingrad with Pol Pot directing if it would sell tickets. There are only bad options. It's about finding the best one.
You don't have a better bad idea than this?
This is the best bad idea we have, sir. By far.
The United States government has just sanctioned your science fiction movie.
Thanks.
So I want to share, I'm not saying that all of our ideas are bad ideas. However, I felt when I saw this clip, I actually sent it to Dr. Mars in the summer saying, this kind of summarizes a lot of what we're working on is how we are doing school is not how we would have designed ideally from the start. And I just want to share that oftentimes we're looking at what are the ideas that we think is the best one and kind of going forward. So I'm not saying that by no means is what we're doing bad. However, I thought it was a nice framing of, you know what, this may not be ideal, but this is the best option that we can come up with. So that's sort of framing a lot of our work, is really trying to frame perspective of during a global pandemic, how can we provide the best option that we can, knowing that it may not be the ideal option, if you will. So this is an image that Diane Horvath created for the district. And as you see, willingness to adapt. This is at the front of the reopening committee plan. Diane is phenomenal about using principles to put a visual on our mission. So this is a piece that gives a broad overview of what we're trying to accomplish with the hybrid planning model. This came out of our reopening committee work this summer. So grounding that, our work. I've shared this image before, which can be a very overwhelming image. And for families that are new to Blake, the idea is that it's hard to talk about anything in isolation, that all of our goals are connected. I asked Diane to try to re-image it as well, and this is what she came up with. And I think this is something that's really important too for us to think about, that when we're looking at our planning for school, it's very hard to talk about anything in isolation. We're trying to keep the Blake Middle School model in place with all the parameters in line with the CDC, with DESE, with our local Board of Health. And it's just a reminder that everything is connected. So we couldn't just talk about how we were structuring our classes without thinking about the guidelines. So this has been a mindset that we want to make sure that we always continue to embrace, that it's interconnected, that we're trying to balance all the social emotional needs of our adolescents while keeping them safe both physically and emotionally. So a lot's at play. And it's important to think about that we can't just fix one thing without thinking about the implications of others. Our theme of curiosity this year will ground our work, very, very important. And this has been a very curious year that we're trying to approach as we go forward. So another piece I just want to remind too is what we're trying to do is think about what can we control, what we can't control. This is an image that was shared by both Laura Keene and Kristen Corcoran, the school psychologists at the middle school and the high school, with our staff last week. And it's a good reminder of some of the pieces that we're putting in place we can control and some we can't control. And we're going to be using this image with our students as well, because it's very important for us to tease that out. So I think that's important for us too, for you to know when we're designing our work, some aspects we had decision-making power, some we didn't. And we have to make sure that we follow and pay attention to both as we go through. So some vocabulary review. You'll hear the term synchronous learning and asynchronous learning. So synchronous learning is when we're together on a call or a meeting. So if Kelly is remote and I'm in person and we're doing a synchronous call, we're on the same time for that meeting. Asynchronous is an approach where we push out work and students may access it at a given time. kind of like a webinar format, just like this is an asynchronous approach to conveying information that Kelly and I are doing. We have 4 cohorts, cohorts A, B, C, and D, and we'll be talking about those throughout this presentation as well, and our hybrid model as well. So you'll be hearing those terms. That's the approach that we're taking this year as a school district. Within this slide deck, this is a hyperlink to the district's reopening plan, and also a hyperlink to some shared definitions that touch on some of the vocabulary if you have any questions. And that's just a screenshot from the reopening plan for the district. So as an overview, this is what the week glance model looks like. So on Monday and Tuesday, it's important to see on Mondays, those are full days. It's not read that the in-person are for half days. So on Monday and Tuesday, cohorts A and C will be in person. On Thursday and Friday, cohorts B and C will be in person. And on Wednesday, all students, the entire district is remote for a half day of learning. And we'll talk about what that looks like. And the afternoon will be a teacher professional development work time. So on Wednesdays, the entire district is remote, including all staff. And that will be the time for a deep clean is the term that we're using between the 2 cohorts, between cohorts A and B. And Kelly, please jump in if I'm missing anything and clarify as we go through. So safety is our top priority. And this was a piece that our school looks different. So students who came to the open houses did see this. So some bullet points. All classrooms are set up with desks 6 feet apart. And I'll show you some images of what those look like. Masks at all times on school grounds, unless during a mask break. We'll talk about that. And this is per the school committee policy that was agreed upon last week. Mask breaks are provided daily, and they are scheduled. We have sanitizers located throughout our building at entrances to classrooms, in the cafeteria, and in hallways. Students will be asked to sanitize going in and out of classes. We have one directional hallways, and halls will be marked to allow for physical distancing when passing. In addition, I've shared an image that is Mary Salamoni, who was wonderful to volunteer herself. And this is not all staff will be wearing this kind of PPE, but I did want to preview that some staff might be, depending on a classroom or needs of students or proximity working with students. So just wanted to preview that, just because if a student comes home saying, well, one of the teachers was wearing more PPE, this may explain why. Also on the lower right, you'll see an image of some bamboo sticks that are 6 feet long. This was a great idea that came up, and Kelly had ordered some bamboo sticks for us. They are all 6 feet long. And we've explained to students that you'll see teachers holding their bamboo sticks, or when they go from space to space. It's a real quick way to make sure that we are distanced out. Students have asked if they could have the bamboo sticks, and we said no. So we're making sure that the adults are using them appropriately as well at all times. So Kelly, you want to walk through this is a map, and it may be a little fuzzy, but it just gives you an idea. You want to talk through a little bit the hallway directions?
Sure. So consistent with the state guidelines, we needed to make our hallways, and we have fairly narrow hallways, so we needed to make our hallways one way. And that's why it was really helpful for kids who came in for the open house. They got to see sort of what that feels like. Staff have been here for almost 10 days, and we're getting used to it. It's taken some time for sure. I think we need to have a Fitbit competition, but so the main hallway where the front office is will be one direction going towards the band room. And so kids will, luckily our building is like a square, so kids will just need to sort of follow. There's the decals, there's decals everywhere, there's signs, there's visuals to go with signs. So kids can see both a word and a symbol to help cue them for which direction to go. The 6th grade hallway, we were able to make 2 ways as long as kids stay to the sides. And we're constantly reminding ourselves of is it's only half the kids. So it feels in our building a little bit like when the whole 7th grade has gone away or the whole 8th grade has gone away. And it's hard to get away from that image in our heads of a full school of 500, 600 kids. But it does feel different with fewer kids. So we will all, adjust to this and get used to it, and we're all going to make mistakes. It's just like the supermarket. You get halfway down and you realize you're going the wrong way. So we'll do the best that we can.
And one piece that a number of pieces we've talked about, the importance of us being honest with each other and calling each other out in a very caring way. And I've been called out where I came out of the bathroom and took a right when I shouldn't have. It was a mind lapse, and I was very happy that a couple of the teachers called me out on it, because we need to make sure we're comfortable doing that. And that's very important regarding masks, and we're going to be talking about that with students as well.
I talked about that with kids today, just that we're going to be giving each other reminders. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean anyone's mad at you. It's just a different way of doing business at school, and we all are going to take time to adjust.
Absolutely.
And obviously in an evacuation, in an emergency situation, the arrows don't count. And if we have a fire drill, you just go the quickest way to get out.
Absolutely. And same is true. You know, we talked with Tricia and Arlene, our nurses, that if there's a student emergency, you go to the emergency. That we will make good judgment in those ways, an appropriate judgment too. So these are some images that I took this morning walking around, just to give a sense for families to take a look at. You'll see it looks like a very traditional classroom, if you will. In some ways, just far more spaced out in the classroom. So you'll see the images of the classrooms. You'll see that our family consumer science room, the one in the upper right, you know, has desks in it because the tables won't work for appropriate physical distancing. And the hand sanitizer, the lower left, that's what some of the hand sanitizers around the building look like. Some are already mounted on walls, but then we have them, the stations around too. In the middle, I'm not going to click on it now, but where the video is, what that is if you click on that, it's a 5-minute video of pictures throughout the school. So you get a sense of what the school looks like if you want to take a look. We'll be sharing it with students as well. And that is a hyperlink to the video as well down below. Okay. So this is the schedule that we have created, and it's our hybrid period schedule. So this is for students on in-person days. So these are the period lengths, and every day we'll start with a go block. And we'll talk about that a little bit, see what it looks like. So the hours of the school day are 7:50 to 2:05. We'll get into attendance in a few minutes. You'll see that between 9:25 and 9:40 is a mask/snack break for the whole school. Kel, you want to just talk about how that will work?
Sure. So at 9:25, at the end of B period, students, B period teachers will take them in a physically distanced fashion out all different exits of the building. And we actually rehearsed this week with teachers, which was actually kind of fun. And every teacher has a designated location that they're going to go to. The teachers all stood outside with their bamboo sticks and just mapped it out to make sure they would have enough room for their advisory or for their classrooms to spread out a little bit. And then since students will not be using lockers this year, everyone will have their backpacks with them every period, and theoretically everything they need will be in their backpack with them. So they'll be able to go outside for 15 minutes, take off their masks at least 6 feet apart, and have a snack. And so that'll be, you know, something where some kids may choose to stand and just have a motor break, and others may choose to use that beach towel and sit down and sort of relax for a few minutes. Then at the end, and on the way out to the mask breaks, there's hand sanitizer to sanitize your hands. Have your snack break, put masks back on, and come back, all different entrances to the building. So there's smaller groups coming in different entrances. And there'll be trash barrels to throw out your trash on your way in, hand sanitizer to sanitize again, and then students will head to their C period class by 9:45. And one thing that Nat and I have talked a lot about this summer is we have no idea how long anything's going to take. So we will adjust as we need to. I think not having locker time is going to make things a little bit more expedient, but we'll adjust as we need to. And there's fewer kids to move from place to place, and so that happens more quickly. So whoever your child has for a B period teacher, that will be the person who takes them out for a mask break. 6th graders will be in a related arts class at that time, so it may be a different teacher on Monday than it is on Tuesday. But 7th and 8th grade students will be in a content area class, so they'll always be with the same teacher. And I was happy when we were planning this that some of the teachers on the committee really wanted to look at this as an opportunity to not just put the whole cluster out on the field, but to be able to build relationships with kids and have them do this break in small groups, which is great. So hopefully it'll work out well.
That's right.
And if it's If it's really, really bad weather, then we'll need to do this indoors with windows open, and we're going to just hope for really good weather this fall.
Always. So this will be a preview of, this is a preview of what Wednesdays will look like as well. So what we're doing is, and you may wonder, why are we going reverse order of periods on Wednesday? Well, part of it is it's good for kids to have different times like we typically have done. We're not doing the week 1, week 2, week 3 model, also to align with the high school because we do have shared staff. So you'll see the times are a little bit shifted to allow for our shared staff to work and teach in both buildings. These are planned to be synchronous Zoom classes, but only for their academic classes. Students will not have any synchronous related arts on Wednesdays. So for example, an 8th grader would have, of those 7 periods, G through A, they would have math, science, English, social studies, and their world language class synchronous. So the kids in A period in cohort A and in cohort B would be together for those classes. And then the whole school will have advisory every Wednesday as a synchronous advisory, if you will. And that information will be sent out to families. This Wednesday is not what the schedule will look like. We're starting the year in a different structure, more based through cluster and advisory in school to ground the year as we move forward. So Kelly, you want to talk about schedules?
About this, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I think I'm dreaming of schedules right now.
I bet.
So, I know many families have accessed Aspen ahead of time. I am still changing schedules. When you can only fit 11 desks in a classroom, the amount of class size balancing that needs to take place is quite astounding. So I'm still moving and shifting and trying to make sure all the pieces fit together. Tomorrow afternoon, you'll receive an email from Beth Leducer, who's our district data manager and Aspen guru, and she will provide all the information you need if you are a family who has not yet accessed schedules in Aspen before. Blake has never done this before, but we're lucky that we were able to have the capacity to do it for this year because it will make things much easier. So kids can look at their schedules. Really important for everyone to realize, in order to make this model work for students, we needed to keep kids in the same sort of pods as much as possible by cluster in order to minimize cross-contamination. So each cluster had access to a couple of related arts classes, and what cluster you were on sort of dictated what related arts classes you would have. So unlike previous years where a child might look at their schedule and say, oh no, I don't have a rotation, or oh no, they forgot to give me art. The children are only here for 2 days, so they only have the opportunity to go to 4 related arts classes. Therefore, it's just going to look different, which will take some getting used to. That said, if your child's in the wrong world language or they were supposed to be in chorus, let us know, and we will do our best to revise things. I know it may require telling everyone to just take a deep breath, and teachers will be explaining it too on the first day to students, that for right now, this is what it looks like. And part of the way that we designed the schedule was so that if tomorrow we needed to go remote, we'd be able to make a fairly seamless transfer, if anything's really seamless. Right. So that's something to keep in mind. Things will look different, and it's been an adjustment for Nat and I because we're used to, we like to be as accommodating as possible, and there are a lot of constraints on that. So we are just trying to do the best we can to make sure that kids are in school and getting what they need, and we're excited about that.
Absolutely. So attendance procedures, and
do you want me to talk about this?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay. So the school hours are 7:50 in the morning until 2:05 on in-person days. Students who arrive after 7:50 will be marked tardy to school. The first few days, there's going to be an adjustment with traffic patterns and everything. So, take a deep breath on that. We all need to get into a routine. But then once all of that is sorted out, students need to be here in time to get to their 7:50 class. And as I've always told kids, like, you need to be in your seat at 7:50. Taking away the locker time should mean that, you don't need as much lead time. They really are just walking into the classroom, walking into the building, and walking directly to their advisory classroom, which is a change this year. They will start the day in their advisory classroom, which is called Go Block, Get Organized Block. It's about 15 minutes for students to connect with their advisor, preview the day. We're trying hard this year to really preview with kids, what will your day look like? What will you need? What are your resources? What questions do you have left over from the last time you weren't here? And what new questions do you have? Provide some organizational supports, build relationships, and attendance will be taken at that time. It's part of the school day. It's not an optional extra 15 minutes to sleep, but they should arrive in time to be an advisory Go Block by 7:50. So unlike other years where 6th, 7th, and 8th graders on the first day of school just needed, I always said to kids, you just need to get to the parking lot and we'll take you from there. It would be good if you can make sure they have some little piece of paper that has the name of their advisory teacher and room number on it. We will have tons of adults to help, but it might make your child feel more comfortable. If your child's not coming to school on an in-person day, it's business as usual. Call the Blake absence line and report your child absent, or if they're coming in late because they have an appointment or whatever. Now, if your children are home because it's their remote day, they're a Monday, Tuesday kid who comes to school then, and they're home on Thursdays and Fridays, but they're not feeling well, so they won't be able to check in for the Go Block or participate in learning on that day, then you still need to call them in and let us know that they're going to be virtually absent, and that's actually a code that we have to use. So when in doubt, communicate, because we will worry when we don't see faces, and you'll hear from us. Same with cohort D students. If they won't be able to make it on with their teachers for that day and are not feeling well or whatever, then just let us know that your child is virtually absent. We are working on a system for early dismissal of students for those orthodontist appointments and so forth. And we're going to communicate it as soon as we have it firmly in place, but we're working on a no contact type system. Did I forget anything, Nat?
I don't think so. I think some of the other pieces will come in later too. But
Okay.
Yeah, it's good to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what are the first few days going to look like? Our focus is on welcoming, relationship building, and acknowledging our new normal, acclimating and understanding safety procedures and locations in the building. So when you think about it, this is always the case for us, but boy, is it more important and more critical that we start and really starting our patterns. Same thing that we've done over the last 10 days with our staff. We're doing orientation to virtual agendas, which we'll talk about, Google Classroom and technology, making sure that students are up to speed on that and that they're set and good to go. Advisory relationships, creating class norms and routines, reviewing our expectations, overview of grading, attendance, homework assessments, what that looks like, and embedding curriculum and assessing where students are at. That's the first few days, meaning, because the first couple of days for cohort A in school will be next Monday and Tuesday. So we're trying to make sure that we build in that orientation for all students and not trying to over accelerate it, if you will. So hybrid learning. So for our students, and again, I'm talking about cohorts A through C, 2 days in person, 2 days remote, primarily asynchronous on that. That does not mean that the students will not be learning. They will be having the curriculum and there will be touch points with staff along the way. And we'll talk about what that model will look like as I go through the slides. On Wednesday, as that grid showed before, it's all remote, synchronous Zooms for academic classes, grades 6 through 8. One thing that our teachers will be reviewing, we'll be talking about tomorrow, is the term ZORMs, which is Zoom norms, and that we really learned a lot from the spring, making sure that we're addressing, and our expectation will be that students have their cameras on. However, there will be times that it may make sense where a student may need to have the camera off for privacy. And that's something that we want to make sure that we're aware of. The same is true when we have staff meetings with adults too. Punctuality will be important. Just, from practicality, learning about how to mute your mic. I've seen a lot of GIFs that say, or images that say the quote of the year is your mic is muted, or something like that, the quote of 2020. Using reactions, using the chat appropriately, talking about co-facilitators. and ways to moderate a Zoom call, if you will. So trying to help students learn appropriate ways to do that. I have hyperlinked in our Netiquette guidelines, which were similar to the spring, and that's what that lower right image is that we're reviewing with students and families about that. These are norms too that are in place. Certainly we need from the get-go, because we will have synchronous Zooms, but also should the need arise for us to go, as Kelly was saying, to flex from hybrid to remote, we have our systems and norms in place to try to allow for a more seamless transition. And then also we'll have a doc, Blake Middle Hybrid Learning 2020-21, sort of overviews what that looks like as well in the doc too. So virtual agendas, this is something that we have built in and building off the elementary slide decks that they had. So if you had students who are Memorial Dale or Wheelock, you're familiar with these terms. And we've adopted it, the format, and it'll look different because we are a cluster-based model with the middle school. So every Sunday night, you'll receive an email that'll have a link to a website that I'm going to preview for you. And to students and families. And I believe that's actually the link here. There's a Blake Middle Hybrid Learning link, takes you to that site. The slide decks are via Google Slides, and it will be important when the prompt is there, and I'll show a screenshot in a minute, that when you're viewing the slides that you are in present mode, because that will allow the hyperlinks to work. We want to consider the virtual agendas and the website that Diane Horvath created for us as the home base for learning organization assignments for students and families too. Now this will be used in conjunction with Google Classroom. All of our teachers will be using Google Classroom. And this is a workflow that we worked a lot with our full team of educators across all disciplines and working with our special educators to make sure that we're creating a format that'll be accessible for all students. And if it needs to be adjusted, it will be. But this is sort of what it will look like. So this will be the front page, and this is just an example template of both. So there's a separate template for each grade level, grade 6, grade 7, and 8, and this is what the front page looks like. So this is what this week's will be that you will receive tomorrow, we'll be sending out. And you'll see there's a button on the slide that says go to present mode. So go to present, it will allow them to access it. On the far right, you'll see tabs for the disciplines that will allow you to jump to each slide as you go through. And I've shared some examples of what the slides will look like. So this is the welcome, and you'll see just the structure. This is at the start of every slide deck as we go through. So all students will be submitting work through Google Classroom, and we'll be talking that through. So if your student's not familiar with that, new to Blake, a new 6th grader that isn't as comfortable, that's part of our orientation process as well. And related arts are not organized by cohorts, so you'll see what that looks like. So for an example, health and physical education are together as wellness. They are not teased into cohort A and cohort B because they will be having experiences once a week in that way, looking at it. So you'll see for each discipline, there'll be a page that lists what's the essential question, what are they learning, what are the topics that they're covering. On the right side of the page, and health and physical education will be combined, there'll also be either images or videos previewing the work for the week. So that's what health and phys ed looks like as an example. English, this is an example from 7th grade English. And this is the first slide page for their discipline for this week, for these 3 days. Their essential question, what will this year look like in 7th grade English? And that's what they'll be talking about. This, when 7th graders receive the link, it's actually a video of the teachers previewing what the work will be to give a sense of what it looks like. And that's what will be sent out every week. And then what they do is go to the next page, and these are the assignments. So this is what it looks like. And it's a screenshot, so it kind of truncated it, but you'll see Wednesday is first day remote, and then on Thursday and Friday, it will list it that way. Every week on the left side will be cohort A, on the right side will be cohort B, because it'll be different outline to help structure for the week to get a sense of it. And it's color coded in that way to help for the visuals. Student supports and info that we are building in place. Our goal was to create a lot of systems that we want to make sure we have in place that, again, will flex between models. So the first one that we did was, I'm asking, and it's great to see a lot of responses. These are hyperlinks to the student learning survey and the family learning survey. This will help our teachers and administrators get a sense of who our students are, get to know them, and also have a better sense of how we can support families. So we ask that everyone fill that out. I will send out reminders, as you know, because we want to make sure we get full responses back. The Go blocks are really the goal for all students on remote days and in-person days, to make sure, with the exception of Wednesday, to have a day the periods that start and ground the work for the day. What are the expectations? So it would be the advisory for in-person students and cluster point people for remote students. That they'll touch base with the clusters of kids and make sure that they're set to go. They know what the expectations are and to preview the day for them. We are working on finalizing an extra help structure. We are beginning the year without any in-person extra help. That may evolve, but we're starting the year without any in-person extra help. The structure we will most likely be implementing will be looking at on Mondays, so that will be when cohort B is remote. Those students would have time for virtual extra help on Monday afternoon. And on Thursdays would be cohort A's virtual extra help too, to try to structure and streamline so students have an opportunity to connect with their teachers on their remote days, to make sure that we want to minimize any piece of confusion and that students can stay on track as they move forward, and structure in a way that our teachers can also appropriately structure for expectations. Our guidance counselors will continue to be heavily involved in supporting our students. We have internal systems in place to help make sure that students do not, quote, fall through the cracks. And we're also looking at the potential of how we're not starting the year with it, of extracurriculars in sports. We know how important it is for students to feel connected. And as they evolve, we may have some remote extracurriculars to start the year. And if in-person is allowed, we will make sure that we explore that and go from there. I encourage everyone to take a look at the Flipgrids. That's that hyperlink down there to start to get to know faces and names of teachers as well. We want to make sure that we continue to be a welcoming environment for all students and families. So lunch, you want to talk about lunch, Kel?
Sure. So lunch is going to look a little different, and I will preface it by saying that philosophically, this is not what I would ever do if I were to start my own school and say, how should I run lunch? We are very much bound by the requirements that have been given to us by the state. Students will eat by cluster in a designated space outdoors. Essentially, we're using the different fields for different clusters, weather permitting. I'm hoping to get us outside unless it's really nasty weather. So, because I think it will feel like more of a break for students if we are outside. They will need to sit 6 feet apart. This is where the beach towel may come in handy. And they'll need to sanitize their hands before going out and upon returning. We are going to make every effort to be outside, so students should dress accordingly. And I do think that beach towel is key. On inclement weather days, students will eat by cluster, either in the gymnasium, the library, or the cafeteria by cluster. So some days that's 25 kids on a cluster, some days it's 40 on a cluster. And so I've chosen spaces accordingly. They will sit 6 feet apart. The windows will be open, doors will be open in the gym. And students, unfortunately, will need to be in assigned seats for contact tracing reasons. My hope is to have students choose a seat on our first indoor day, which I hope will not be this Friday, based on the weather report. And I'll record where students sat, and that will sort of be their seat. We put little stickers on with numbers, decals with numbers, so they can remember their seat number. And we'll have a note of that. Otherwise, if they're outside, they can sit wherever they would like to. It's a little bit different in the outdoors. Students who choose to eat a school lunch. So this year, you'll get a letter today, hopefully, that the free school lunch has been extended through December 31st for all families, regardless of need. So students who choose to eat a school lunch will have 2 stations set up, one by the gym and one by the cafeteria, and based on where your destination is, based on your cluster, you will stand in a physically distanced line in the hallway, grab your lunch, and head to your cluster location. And my understanding is there will be like 2 choices, and the menu should be posted today on the website where it always is. So we'll help kids with learning those new routines, and I'm sure they'll pick up on it quickly. And water will be free for all students, water bottles, which reminds me of hydration, which I forgot to add to the slide now. So students will be allowed to access water during the day. We will expect them to just lift their mask, take a drink, and keep their mask on, not yank it off. And so we do encourage you to send them with refillable water bottles to school because we want everyone to stay hydrated. We did extend lunch to 30 minutes this year just to allow for the travel time in and out, hand sanitizing, and just the change in routine. And Nat and I and the guidance counselor for the grade level will be supervising the different locations. When students finish eating, which in my experience is usually in 10 minutes, they can have recess time in a physically distanced way. So that outdoor lunch will kind of serve two functions, that they will also be able to hang out, chat, visit with friends, and just kind of have a little downtime with the mask off. So that's also serves as another mask break during the day. And I know, that was a big question I got this week when kids were in for the open houses. What about lunch? So we'll teach them the routines, and we'll all get through it together, and we'll hope for a very nice fall.
Absolutely. So what will feedback look like for students on their learning? So both students will be receiving both feedback in person and remote. And as I said, Google Classroom is a fantastic mechanism for us to be working on our workflow with students and conveying feedback. We are going to be creating some tutorials and directions for families to access their own students' Google Classroom through their student's account and how to do that. So parents will not be given a specific access, but they will be given the directions how to access through their child's account, what that will look like. We are continuing with standards-based reporting and really looking at priority content standards in our learning skills, working in conjunction with the frameworks from the Department of Ed. The term priority content standards is really important because I know that we've heard a lot about the worry of lost time and minimize that. We want to make sure, and this has always been our work, that what we're teaching towards is the priority standards of the frameworks. It is not at all not covering the material that's needed. It's making sure that we always align our curriculum with our priority standards for our discipline. And also working on learning skills. We are continuing with 3 trimesters, and as we did in the spring, there'll be narrative-based feedback that the teachers will provide, touching on the content standards and the learning skills. So it's an evolving model is what we're looking at, but that's the overall structure of feedback. As I would always say, if you're unsure of how your student is doing, please reach out. Would rather have, as Kelly often says, don't suffer in silence. If you're wondering, shoot an email. If you're not sure, reach out, let us know. It's our responsibility to make sure we let you know if we're worried and give updates, but if you're not sure, please reach out. So special education services, Mary Salamoni is our educational team leader, and she put together this information. So special ed services will be provided in person as well synchronously and asynchronously, depending on the learning plan that's developed for each student's IEP. Liaisons will be in contact or may have already been in contact to discuss special ed services and outline when and how services are going to be provided. And all the contact info is listed down below as a go-to spot for you to reference if you have any questions at all. Please do not hesitate to reach out to anyone. And I know Mary, if you're not sure who to contact out, reach out to Mary or Kelly or me, and we can help redirect. Our ask always is, doesn't matter who you reach out to, just reach out. And it's our job to channel the response back in an organized way. So nurse information, I just want to continue to thank Tricia and Arlene for taking care of us all the time. Arlene O'Donovan Driscoll is new to Blake this year because Amy Keegan is going to be working full-time at Wheelock. We will miss her. Contact information is there. We are following all the protocols outlined in our plan in the health and safety area of the plan. We do have an identified quarantine room near the nurse's office for any student exhibiting COVID symptoms. And if a student needs to be dismissed for COVID-related reasons, we will have a system in place where parents check in at the main office when dismissing students, but they will not enter the building. And we'll make sure those protocols are followed. If you have any questions at all about the health needs or protocols, please reach out. As always, number one priority is safety and well-being of all students and staff. So this is a slide that Mrs. Cowell put together. And this is about cohort C. So cohort C are the students who will be in the building 4 days a week. And it is room 206 right near the library. And what she has just asked as well is making sure that cohort C students that please bring your charge device and a charger every day. That's something with the supplies that we asked too, knowing that we will not be sharing chargers at school. All school supplies you'd have in person, and headphones and an independent reading book, which is what we would ask all the time too. As Carrie wrote, we're still working out all the details, excited to meet cohort C students, ask questions, and Mrs. Walton will be helping with Mrs. Cowell with all of our cohort C students as well. So mass breaks, we talked about this a little bit before. This just gives an image of how it's structured. So I thought it'd be helpful to see just an overview. I sometimes can be directionally challenged with maps, but this gives an overview of how we spaced out students based off their classrooms and color coded. And this is what we practiced at the end of last week as well. Based off our practice with staff, we believe it's appropriately spaced out. We'll have to see as we go to see what the traffic flow is and working with that. As Kelly said, we have a lot of best laid plans. Until we see them in reality, we'll see if it works in reality, if our quote best bad idea is good to go. With that too, we also want to be mindful that we're not going to switch necessarily after day one unless it's a complete disaster, to be honest, because we have to kind of live it out to see what it looks like and that's the same thing with traffic flow, which we'll be talking about too as well. So cohort D students, this comprises 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students at Blake. We are structuring cohort D as its sort of own cross-grade cluster and working to have a combination of cross-grade and grade-specific learning experiences. In addition to Medfield cohort D teachers, our grade level guidance counselors will be serving as supports. Math, English, social studies, and science is taught by Medfield educators. Instruction and learning will be a combo of some synchronous and asynchronous experiences for these students. And attendance will be taken every day for our cohort D students. As Kelly referenced earlier, if students are going to be virtually absent, which is a code that we need to enter, these absences will need to be called into the main office absence line at Blake. Bathroom procedures. So we are using, so these are bathroom rules that we borrowed and from our fellow educators down at Wheelock, the team of teachers at Wheelock had created, and they apply for us as well. So we have signage and we're gonna be reviewing these protocols with students. So a big discussion was how would we figure out signing out to go to the bathroom? We are implementing a Google Form sign out that every student will have as the Google Form on their Chromebook or iPad, and that they will implement and will go through the orientation on how to use it. We did pilot it a few years ago with a cluster and it worked well. And it allows us for contact tracing if need be as well. So that will be how it will work on bathroom procedures. And we will be reviewing this and seeing what that actual reality looks like. If we need to adapt our plans, we will. Kelly, am I missing anything about that?
I just think it's nice to remind people that, you know, for the big bathrooms that have multiple stalls, we're saying 2 at a time in the bathroom, and students should leave their masks on. But there are a lot of options in our building too for what I call onesie bathrooms. So in the library, there are 2, in the cafeteria, there are 2. So we encourage kids, if you have a child who's just uncomfortable, that there are other private bathrooms too. Just keep in mind it might be a long walk around on the arrows, but that's okay. It's exercise.
We'll build in steps for all of us and some sensory breaks as well, which we all need. I know I do. Great. So we are getting towards the end. I know that it could feel like one of Blake's parent nights, but we're getting there. We want to make sure we have all the material for people to reference. Carrie Cowell, as our librarian, and I'm very glad she did one to just say that the Library Media Center is different. It will be different this year, and we're hoping that we can really use the library as we move along and following all the safety procedures. So as she said, it's a work in progress, so check back often. Right now, the library is closed, and that our hope is that we will be able to have some book circulation after we start getting going, see what the school year looks like. But just to know that, that is not to say that the resources of the library within Mrs. Cowell and Ms. Walton aren't in place, working with our staff. We just want to make sure that we've touched on that too. We do not want to have a loss of a library, but we want to make sure that we're making sure it's a safe learning environment for everybody. So arrival and dismissal.
Want me to?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay. So upon arriving and entering the building, students will sanitize their hands and head directly to Go Block. Unlike previous years where they would all gather either in the cafeteria or the gym, we're not able to do that this year. So we're having students go straight to Go Block. There will be Blake adults outside to help students learn these routines. Sixth graders will enter through the door to the sixth grade wing, which is actually if you go past the bike racks and around the gym. That's where that entrance is. They'll walk in and they'll be in sixth grade land, which is actually a really nice thing for sixth graders. They won't have to navigate their way through the whole building to get to sixth grade wing. Seventh graders will enter through the main lobby doors. Like if you were going to the main office, they're going to turn right, go past the main office and turn left at the cafeteria, and that will take them down the hallway. There's some seventh grade advisories there. They can turn left and get to seventh grade land. And then eighth graders will enter through, they can come in through the cafeteria doors, or there's a side door near the custodian entrance that some kids know as the door they try to come in when they're coming back from band or chorus. And that door will be open for students who are either coming from buses or from drop off. And they'll just take a right and go down through the science wing. So we will teach these routines, and I'm sure the first day it will be a little bit crazy, but that's okay. We'll be here to help. So students, on dismissal, students will sanitize on their way out, and we're gonna actually ask staff to walk students out for the first couple of days just to get a feel for what it's like to try and maintain the physical distancing, and also just to make sure everyone knows where they're going. Sixth graders will go right back out that door they came in, or they can go out the sixth grade wing door by the bathrooms. Seventh graders will go out through the gym lobby doors, and eighth graders will go out just the main lobby doors. Students this year cannot remain at school beyond 2:05 dismissal. In previous years, we had our friends who like to game on their iPads, and Nat and I would be leaving at 5:30 and say, I think you need to go home for dinner. So this year, everybody really does need to leave at 2:05. And I'm going to remind you of the expectation that if you are still on the grounds of school, even if you're doing bike tricks by the bike rack or something like that, they still need to have masks on. And we need students not to be dropped off prior to 7:40 in the morning, because we cannot have a communal place for everyone to gather. We need to try and keep the clusters separate. And we want students to get here and then trickle right into their Go block with their advisor and be in their little pod. So students who are being picked up in the afternoon, if you're picking up your child, you're going to instruct them to look for you in front of the high school auditorium area, which probably leads me to the next slide.
Yep, perfect. And I just want to touch on before I do that,
Yeah.
just so you know, Kelly and I are both in our respective offices with the doors closed. That's why we don't have our masks on. We are making sure that we follow those guidelines as well. And that's been something very important for our staff. I'd be remiss not saying that if Kelly and I even just, we often shout back and forth and talking with Sharon and Katie Adams, if once I step out, my mask is on. If someone comes into our office to talk, we put our mask on right away. I just want to make sure people know that we're making sure that we're aware of that and getting in that habit. Traffic.
So traffic. So this is big breaking news. The Medfield Police Department, based on the fact that so many more students will be getting rides to school, we have only 5 buses coming to Blake. First, the buses are actually this year going to drop off and pick up in front of the Medfield High School main lobby loop opposite the football field. And Blake staff, probably me, will assist with accompanying students as they learn this routine, walking up the sidewalk to Blake from the high school. But this year, the Medfield Police has decided to close Pound Street at 7:30. There will be a crossing guard there who we are very grateful to, who is there trying to keep all of our children safe. Many, many bikers. We saw lots of bikers the last 2 days, which was great. So Pound Street will be closed. The Blake circles that you're accustomed to coming in and dropping your kids off in, those will be closed to vehicle traffic from 7:30 to 8 in the mornings. That will allow our students who are walking, biking, walking from the buses, trying to get over to the 6th grade entrance, etc. All of those students will be able to arrive and depart more safely. So it's actually a bit of a relief, I think, from a personal responsibility for student safety, although I know that it's a very new routine for families to get used to. Then in the afternoon, the crossing guard will close Pound Street again from 1:45 to 2:15. So all drivers will need to enter via South Street. I'm told this is very similar to the way you would normally drop off a high school kid. You'll enter via South Street and drop your students off and pick them up along the front sidewalk of Medfield High School near the auditorium and guidance office. And then everybody will be leaving via Pound Street. And I'm told that the crossing guard will just wave all the traffic out. So we'll watch that. So this is a new routine. All I can say, here's a nice little visual courtesy of Jason Heim, is please, 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 we just don't want anyone to get hurt. We have young drivers, we have, kids who are eager to get where they're going and sometimes don't look. We have people on bikes. So please just take it easy, take it slow, and keep an eye out for everyone. I feel like I need you to go back to the slide now.
Oh, sorry, Phil.
I feel like there was something else. Okay. No, I guess that's it. So everyone will be entering South Street starting at 7:30. And you may be aware that the high school starting time is different from Blake this year. So I think that the intent is that the high school traffic will have cleared before Blake traffic needs to begin. And hopefully that will work out well. Kids who are getting the bus over in front of the Medfield High School main lobby loop, that's part of why after school we're going to have adults walking kids out. We want to make sure everyone can find their bus. There should not be a huge worry about kids missing their bus. That's always a big 6th grade theme, because the buses are dedicated just to Blake. So it's not like they're rushing to get to another afternoon run. Hopefully that will work out well for students. And once students are on the bus, they do need to have their masks on the bus, and the bus drivers are aware of that.
And
So
Kelly, no, I don't think so. It's just what it reminds me of is how everything is connected. One of the pieces one of the scheduling changes that we had to do in the staggered way, and Go Block also is important for safety of students, is typically when our students arrive, all 6th and 7th graders would gather in the gym. That's a very large congregation of students. So this change in scheduling allows us to make sure that we have staff in the building appropriately to receive students as they arrive and have them appropriately physically distanced. So it's just a reminder of, when we're looking at this, it touches on curriculum as well. So it's all connected building through.
And I think also that goes back to attendance. So this will be a new routine. You will want, as a family, to plan to leave early, and we're telling our staff the same thing, just until everyone settles in. Anticipate that it will take you longer than it has in the past, and when it doesn't, it'll just be great news. But I think, keeping that in mind, and then also realizing that kids don't need to do the locker thing before class. They're going straight to class, so that should help a little bit too.
Absolutely.
So you can see where our 2 circles have those little things with no cars. No one will be able to drive in those circles. So if you have a child, because this will happen, who breaks their foot the first week of school at some practice, contact us so that we can help to make accommodations to make sure. I don't want any child on crutches schlepping all the way from the Medfield guidance office. We'll figure it out, whether we meet with a wheelchair or whatever.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
So some housekeeping things, just kind of general reminders. If you have an urgent need to drop something off that's essential for your child, you may ring the buzzer and identify yourself, the office staff. We will have a shelf be implemented under the awning to leave items with your child's name on it. When you leave, a member of the office staff will retrieve the item. Due to COVID regulations, there will be no bus passes issued for students wanting to ride another bus home after school. Visitors at this time will not be permitted to enter the building to drop off items. Please know that is not a philosophy that we would implement, just like our lunch plans. We welcome all learners, all individuals, always at Blake. Just we know for the time being, we'll be welcoming more virtually. Please have your child, this is important, bring their own charger every day, labeled with their name on it. if it's fully charged, our hope is that it'll last throughout the day, but should the need arise, we don't want to have to student be in a compromised situation. So that's just a routine that we'll make sure we'll implement as well. Along with a fully charged device, sharing is just not possible at this time.
I think this year is a huge year for putting your name on everything because we don't have lockers, and lost and found will be a little sketchy with everybody touching things. So I think, put a little piece of duct tape around the kid's charger and put their name on it, or some washi tape or whatever. Just if you're sending a beach towel, put the child's name on it. That's really going to be helpful. Same with coats, jackets, sweatshirts. We have hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of stuff that is never claimed, but if there's a name on it, we do try and get it back to families.
Absolutely. Okay, so we are wrapping up, believe it or not. School supplies. So these are just hyperlinks to the school supplies for the 6th grade, 7th, and 8th grade, and just highlighting those two pieces that are unique to this year. Please have your child also bring a beach towel daily to use for outdoor seating. All students should bring their chargers to school every day. So just finishing with the big picture, those of you who've been at Blake before, Ted Sizer's words were pretty prescient. Things remain the same because it's impossible to change very much without changing most of everything. Essentially, with everything, we've changed a lot, and because everything connects. So it's just really important that we kind of take a big step back. Please know our goal is always to provide a very productive, safe, and healthy learning environment that we want our students to be lifelong learners. That is our goal. We want them to feel safe and connected, grounded in relationships. So this is the other clip I shared the staff. This is from the movie Charlie Wilson's War. If you haven't seen it, it's phenomenal. And this is a 50-second clip towards the end of the movie. There's a piece where they're talking about the parable of the Zen master and the little boy. And after I share it, I'll share why I thought it was appropriate to share with everyone.
Listen, not for nothing, but do you know the story about the Zen master and the little boy?
Oh, this is something from Nitsa, the Greek witch of Aqualippa, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there's a little boy. On his 14th birthday, he gets a horse. And everybody in the village says, how wonderful, the boy got a horse. And the Zen master says, we'll see. 2 years later, the boy falls off the horse, breaks his leg, and everybody in the village says, how terrible. And the Zen master says, we'll see. Then a war breaks out, and all the young men have to go off and fight, except the boy can't because his leg's all messed up. And everybody in the village says, how wonderful.
Now, the Zen master says, we'll see.
So you get it.
No, because I'm stupid.
You're not stupid. You're just in Congress.
So please, if you're in Congress, please try. That was not my intent of sharing that piece. Or if you know someone's not a disrespect of politics, really, I think it really steps back. Is we're just not sure, and be very honest about that. We shall see, because a lot of the pieces, I'll be honest, that we've experienced. I don't believe in the term at all. I don't like using the term silver linings from the pandemic because I don't like that in conjunction with what's going on health related. That said, a lot of opportunities have come to light for us about our educational system and how we interact with one another in relationships. And there has been some really good aspects that are coming from this work. And also, we just don't know. We're going to see how things work out. So we have a plan. Is this going to work? Well, we're going to see. And if it doesn't, we will adapt. And I promise that. And we want to make sure that we continue to listen to you. Let us know if you have any questions. Please, we'll extend the grace too. If you email us and we don't get back to you right away, please know we want to be as responsive as possible. We're doing our very best. And I just ask that if you haven't gotten a response, send another email. And we're saying that. So please just know that, particularly during this time period, there's a lot of balls up in the air for all of us, families as well, on the family planning end, and we want to respect that too.
Now, can I say one more thing?
Yes, please.
It's been so wonderful to have the students in the building on Friday and today, and it was really, in some ways, a really nice test drive. And it was amazing to see the adaptability of our staff and how they looked like they'd done it this way every year. It was quite amazing and inspiring. But at the end of the day, the kids came in and they're still middle school kids and they're wearing masks, but they're exactly the same. And it was really, really fun to see them. So we're hoping that in spite of all these little all these big things around them that have had to change. Like, there's still middle school kids coming to school being middle school kids. So I also don't want anyone to feel like, well, this seems like too small of a problem to bring up in the middle of a pandemic, and they have so much going on and everybody's so busy. If there's something that you need support with or help with or a question with, let us know.
Absolutely. So just ending too, so I know I've shared with the community my fondness and respect for Ken Robinson as an educator, and I'll probably get emotional. He passed away this summer, and he was a groundbreaking educator, just phenomenal. And I just think it's important for us to ground our work what he felt were the aims of education, to enable students to understand the world around them, the talents within them, so they can become fulfilled individuals and active, compassionate citizens. So that's our hope, to live that. And as Kelly said, it has just been wonderful on Friday and Monday to have students here and to see our staff work together. As I shared via email, I had to take a few minutes. It got quite emotional just thinking about the gratitude I have for this wonderful community that we're working in. So I want to thank you. And this song is just wonderful with the line, someday we'll get it together and we'll get it all done. I don't know when, but we will. We're still working on it. Kelly, thank you for this webinar together, and we'll be sending it out a little bit. Hopefully you just received it if you're watching it and stuck with us all throughout. Please be in touch, be well, and take care of yourselves. Thank you.
Take care.